5-Year Mission the Podcast, Episode 32.
This episode of 5-Year Mission the Podcast is brought to you by Fansets, your home for all things pop culture pin related. Head over to fansets.com and see all that they have to offer. And also stay tuned at the end of the episode for a very special offer from us here at 5-Year Mission.
By now you figured out that this is the 5-Year Mission Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of 5-Year Mission, the podcast, where tonight we're going to be continuing the What Are Little Songs Made Of series. Tonight we're focusing on Space Seed, and also, for like the second time in just mere weeks, we're joined by all 5 band members. So, Mike, Noah, whose mic is clipping for some odd reason, even though it's so far away, and Chris, and a Patrick with a silent guitar somehow.
Just playing quietly.
Oh, very quietly. So I'm not even picking up. It's the quietest. Oh, there we go. There we go. Perfect. Now we're moving on to Space Seed, the crowd-pleasing song and the crowd-pleasing episode. And yeah, it's probably one of the more infamous episodes of the original series because they went on and made a whole damn movie about it.
I wonder if it would be such an iconic episode if it hadn't been for the reprise in The Wrath of Khan. Ricardo Montalban obviously was a big star at the time, and he went on to star in Fantasy Island. I think it would have been iconic, but I don't think it would have been what it is, you know?
Very true.
Probably not.
It's not a bad episode.
I mean, after the impact of Wrath of Khan, I can't see it, not being iconic. But before that, I think it was probably just a solid episode.
Yeah. It really is kind of a standard episode. It's, somebody's trying to take over the ship and they're thwarted. I mean, it's like 50% of this original series.
I mean, they could have taken any one-off episode and made a movie continuation of it, and then it would be the iconic one that we'd be talking about instead of Space Seed. So.
Yeah.
Very true.
I feel like they set it up though at the end of the episode where they maroon him on this planet.
Yeah, it was kind of set up.
I almost feel like if they had continued after season 3, that eventually they would have gone back to that. And
oh yeah, the ending of that episode definitely had a very to be continued vibe to it. It's go off on this planet. If you survive, cool. If not, that's on you, superhuman.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I don't know that there are a lot of original series episodes that sort of leave that sort of, we might come back to this. Yeah. Most of them are wrapped up in a pretty tidy package.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the original series was very episodic. I mean, they didn't have any serialized episodes except for, if you count the 2-part episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
which was essentially just like a glorified clip show. So,
yeah, right.
A clip show for a show that never aired.
Yeah, right. It really did lend itself to the continuation. So that is part of why it's so iconic. But there are also some pretty good bits in there. I mean, Ricardo Montalban chews up the scenery pretty nicely. His little getting out of bed and doing his stretches, that thing.
The weird Tai Chi stuff.
Yeah, right. So there's some really good stuff in there. The fight between Kirk and Khan is another Kirk fight scene, but I think it's a pretty good one.
Against a more formidable foe than usual, I guess.
It is. Yeah. Well, it's funny because he's Khan is supposed to be superhuman, really.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And
augmented.
But Kirk,
a double fist punch.
He just, you can't get around that guy.
Doesn't Khan crush something? Doesn't he smash something with his hand or just fist?
He does.
Thing?
Yeah, like a computer console or something.
A monitor or something.
Yeah, he does.
That's right.
Yeah, that's like burned somewhere into my memory.
I do like there's a point at which, Khan tries to subvert the entire crew. He tries to take over. He doesn't just try to take over the ship. He tries to get the crew to go along with it. So It's almost like he's trying to build this mutiny, and nobody's on board for it. Like, no thanks.
Well, with the exception of one, obviously.
Oh, but she wasn't really a crew member though, was she? She was
Lieutenant McIvers.
Yeah, was she?
She was the ship's historian.
Oh, was that who she was?
Reported for duty for the away team when she was called.
That's okay. All right.
Come on, Chris.
Well, for some reason
Chris does not care about this episode. Whatever we do, he can't write the song.
Yeah. Well,
crap.
It wasn't by choice.
Jeez.
Was this a song that anybody was clamoring for back in the?
I feel like it's one we all probably would have liked to have written.
Yeah. I feel like Patrick wanted it.
I feel like when I got it, I didn't know what it was. And then I watched it and I said, oh, okay. Wrath of Khan. Okay, I get it.
That makes sense.
This was back when I was kind of watching the series as I was writing songs. I don't think it was until a little bit later that I got ahead of it and watched episodes before we actually got to them.
Yeah, what's funny is that this was still kind of in the early stages, because we just hopped right in with year one because you guys had already had all the songs written for year one, and I was just like borrowing the DVDs. This was like before I had like Netflix, but I was just borrowing the DVDs, and so I hadn't been able to just watch the episodes at any point that I wanted to. And so when we first started doing Space Seed, I didn't quite understand all the lyrics just because I was like, I hadn't seen the episode that many times at that point. Obviously now I've surpassed the amount of viewings than probably all you guys. Well, maybe with the exception of Mike. But yeah, when I would I never knew what the chorus meant. I was like, what is he saying? What is this? What does this Noonian sing? What is he doing and singing? Mooney and sing. I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm an idiot.
It goes without saying.
Well, hey. Now, after we, because this was when we were still choosing. Did we choose all these from a hat for year two?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't have the system down yet.
Right, we didn't have all the trades and everything down.
Yeah, we put all 16 in it at once.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and then we had to trade around. I can't remember. Did we do that at Noah's, or was that one we did at like Starbase Indy or something?
I think this one we did at Noah's.
Oh yeah, this was definitely Noah's.
This is the one we did in the urn. I think.
The urn. Okay, I think you're right. Yeah. Okay.
Before the Gorn mask.
I think this might have been the first one I picked.
Possibly,
as I recall. I think it was, because if we did all 16 together at the same time, I think this was the first one I picked. And actually, I did know what it was before I watched it, because I think when I picked it, I was like, I don't know what this is. And I think Mike probably said, that's the Khan episode. And I was like, oh, cool. So I think I was looking forward to getting into it, but also just like, when you pull City on the Edge of Forever, you just worry a little bit, because this is one that people are going to be waiting for,
Right.
It's not like, a Lawn of Troyes where no one cares.
Yeah, because like this being on year two, you pulled like two really iconic episodes for this album.
Having no idea that I pulled two iconic episodes for the album.
Right. Because again, this was very early stages. Pretty much right after we released year one, we started working on year two.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you drew, let's see, Squire of Goss, Court Martial, Space Seed, and City on the Edge of Forever. So it's like, I guess Squire has become a little more iconic over the years because of the whole
Q.
the whole Q possibility thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you got three out of 4 ain't bad.
Wrote a country song for court martial. Yeah.
You know, when you brought in Space Seed, I remember that one was, I don't know how long it took you to write or if it came quickly, but it seemed very instant. Like it seemed like you just had it. Whereas City on the Edge of Forever, I remember you worked on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because
it seemed like it came really
like the running joke.
I think Space Seed, in fact, I have my notes right here. I think Space Seed was the second one that I did Squire first. I did them in order. I did Squire, then Court Martial, and then Space Seed, and then City.
You did it by air date.
Yeah, I did. In City, I just got way too much in my head about that one. I was really, really worried that it wasn't going to be good enough. And we'll talk about that when we do City on the Edge of Forever. But Space Seed, I always felt as good and iconic as The Wrath of Khan is. I always feel like just being Ricardo Montalban, the Khan character, is very almost overdone. You know, I mean, it's very cartoonish in a lot of ways. And so I think that helped because I could write something that wasn't so serious, like City on the Edge of Forever. And that just made it a lot easier. And Spacey did come along really quickly. It was one of the easier ones to write, I think.
See, and I think if I had had Space Seed, I would have been inclined to write a darker tone, you know, a more darker tone, serious, maybe a heavier, badass kind of sounding song. But I'm glad, but like, I can think of nothing else but what it currently is. Like, I think it's very fitting for it now, you know, like, I mean, it's almost the whole Khan thing has become a humorous joke almost, you know, and so having a little bit of a lighter air to the song with it, I think it does match it well. And I think it's a little bit more of an appropriate fit than trying to do something heavier and darker and serious with it. I think it actually deserves a little bit of that sort of lighter tone.
You can always do the heavy dark thing when we get to the Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly the point I was going to make. In the Wrath of Khan, he's way darker than he is in Space Seed.
Well, a lot of stuff has happened in that time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He said it's time to think.
I mean, look at his hair.
Yeah, right.
His chest.
Oof, man.
In the earlier episodes I'd watch an episode and I would take notes, and I have like 3 pages of notes on this one.
Do you just save everything, Chris?
Well, I have my spiral notebooks, and I just save those, and it has all the notes I take in it. It also has the lyrics and the, you know, what I use to write the song. But at the top of the second page is his full name, Khan Nudian Singh. And when I wrote that up there, it's not like in the notes, it's up at the top in, like, you know, an open section. I was just thinking when I wrote that down, I was like, I have to use this somewhere. And so that was kind of the genesis. See what I did there? The genesis of where the chorus came from. And then when I started writing the song, I wasn't really sure where to start. And I came up with that all aboard the Botany Bay, and everything else just came easy. It was like that first line made everything else fall in place. And this is one of those kind of tell the story songs where it's just kind of going through and talking about what happened in the episode.
The synopsis.
Yeah. And those are always a little bit easier to write. It's, you know, you don't want to do a step-by-step retelling. You want to put a little flair into it. Yeah. But it does make it easier to write. But that's just what felt right to me for the song.
And I will say, Chris, I'll rephrase your statement. it's easier for you to write. Because for me, writing like a start to finish chronological sort of what happened is incredibly difficult for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's way more work to do that than to come up with dwelling on some thematic thing over there.
I actually have a much easier time writing the synopsis episode or the synopsis songs, but I grew tired of doing that quickly. I know I've done that a few times, but now I really try to avoid it because it just doesn't feel as interesting to me.
Well, you're rehashing something that people have already seen in a lot of cases too. So,
and I try to do it in a different way just to make it interesting. But, you know, the difference between taking, you know, going to a space heat and taking these pieces and putting them together in a different way and, you know, making them singable and fun is, to me, is not as creatively deep as going into, say, you know, like Noah was talking about, taking one character. And I mean, even something as lighthearted as Colder in Russia, where, you know, it's almost tongue in cheek, but it's like looking at this one character and building something that you never would have seen before. You know what I mean? And I find that really interesting. The first time I did that was with Balance of Terror, where I took these two characters that weren't really part of the episode, and they're barely part of the episode, and just building their story around. And so, you know, it's just whatever comes up, you know, whatever comes out, that's what I do.
It's a lot more fun to add to the lore than to just repeat it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the case of Khan, it had to be about him because of what he is. And to me, it made sense to just glorify that by talking about the episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, why I made it lighthearted and goofy, I don't know.
Well, the episode actually isn't really that serious. Most of it's kind of fun and enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, and I was trying to think. The chorus has the the repeated Khan, Nooney, and Sing, and on the first and third ones, I do that kind of high leto sing. I have a tendency to repeat, City on the Edge of Forever 30 times in a song, and I knew I wanted to emphasize his name, and so I wanted to do it multiple times. But I didn't want it to be the same every time. And I don't remember if I did it in the demo or not, or if we came up with it when we were practicing it. But doing that little falsetto thing was just I just latched onto it. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. And then I was so worried that it wasn't going to translate in playing it live, no one would hear it because I couldn't sing it loud enough, or recording it just wouldn't sound good because falsetto, you never know what's going to happen. But I think it turned out okay.
Oh yeah, it totally works. It works live, works recorded.
Yeah.
I don't remember how it was. I'd probably have to go back and listen to the demo, but I do remember when we first started working on it, doing those chorus harmonies was a lot of fun. And I think it really kind of came together during those rehearsals.
Yeah, I think so too. I know that regardless of where it began, I definitely wasn't sold on it until we started working with it and can basically convince myself that it would actually work and we could do it.
I think that one, you actually played for us at practice rather than giving us the demo right away. And I think you weren't sure about it, and all the rest of us were like, yeah, that's great. Let's use that.
It could be.
We were very agreeable that day.
Yeah. Another thing that I do in this song for this episode is I tried to pick out quotes, which I do frequently. I try to pick out quotes from the episodes, but this one I definitely went for, especially at the end, the what Spock's is at the end about it being interesting, going back to see what happened. And, when Khan says he'd rather rule in hell than, serve in heaven, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I thought these were really like key elements of that character and that kind of, the episode is like, it's like a first part of a double episode that never happened. And so I wanted to make sure I had that like cliffhanger, cliffhanger quoted at the end of it too. I just, that's one of the reasons why I take these notes, because then I can go back and when, like, I'm terrible. Andy can sit here and quote things all day, and I'm terrible at that. Like, I never remember quotes verbatim ever. Like, I can remember the gist sometimes. But for a song, I want it to be exact, and I can never remember it. So that's one of the reasons I take notes, is so I can write these things down. And when something catches my ear, I'll just write it down. And if I don't use it, that's fine. But at least it's there in case I need it, in case I'm like, what was that they said? And then I don't have to go back and check. It's just, I just have it written down already.
Yeah, I do that same thing. Yep.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, Patrick, because like the for your song for tomorrow is yesterday. How many people knew his
serial number?
Serial number. Yeah.
Now everybody forget that one.
And when I take these notes, I have to scribble them down fast, and then I hit pause a bunch. To give you an example, one of these notes, it's when when Khan is like trying to get everybody on his side. When Kirk is locked up, he's talking to the crew, and my note is Khan speechifies and tries to recruit Scotty, Spock, McCoy, Uhura, and some random dude. So like that's the kind of things that I have written
but
down.
Not Chekov, because he didn't meet Chekov in the episode.
That's right.
Apparently he talks about it later.
That's a thing, isn't it? He didn't meet him in the episode, but then in Wrath of Khan, he acts like he's seen him before.
I remember.
It's a huge plot hole.
But,
well, he just off screen,
I was gonna say, it's like I always say, you're watching something and it seems like something's happening, at one scene, and 2 scenes later, it seems like there's this huge time jump, and it's like, that's perfectly reasonable. It's like movie time. That's what we're talking about. So I think, I think it's okay. You could have met Chekov elsewhere another time. What, Noah? Noah looks like
if we do like redux versions on these songs, if we do any redos and we do Space Seed, then obviously whoever does it needs to write Chekov's experience dating Khan off screen.
I think you should write that one.
You said it first. Now you got to do it.
All right.
Start working on it, Noah.
Well, we were just talking today, and Noah said that he had several of these electronic songs that he put together, and only one of them really went with the lyrics that he'd written for another song. And so you have all those other ones that you can use. So there you go.
I do. I've got some songs.
Bust out another Cooler in Russia. We'll be happy about that.
It'll be the third part in the trilogy of the Apple, Colder in Russia, and Space Seed.
That's right. The Chekov years.
Right.
I have very little memory of the recording of this song. I feel like it just went smoothly. It must have, because I don't remember doing it.
We also had, on year 2, there were a lot of songs that were kind of poured over and had lots of effects and things added, and this wasn't necessarily one of them, except for the trumpet, of course.
Except for the trumpet, yeah.
But this is one of the songs that I think we practiced a lot, and then by the time we got around to recording it, there wasn't a whole lot of things to do. We just needed to record it.
Do it. Yeah.
Well, I think Space Seed was the first song off of year 2 that we started playing live before we actually released year 2, wasn't it?
It was certainly one of them.
Yeah, right.
I think
that
Tomorrow's Yesterday was an early one too.
Yeah, I feel like we usually, each one of us have a song that we play.
Or we would start off with,
And Tomorrow's Yesterday was definitely early, and I think Space Seed was too.
Yeah, Tomorrow's Yesterday, Space Seed. I want to say Galileo.
Yep.
Probably.
And then also
Probably it was Aaron to Mercy, probably.
Aaron to Mercy. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, those were like the first 4 that we started truly playing live, which I think probably translates onto the album pretty well. That they were like some of the tighter songs on the album.
Yeah.
And they were probably also the easiest to record.
Space Seed didn't have any really extracurricular instrumentation or anything, did it?
It had
That's what I recall.
Just a trumpet, yeah.
Trumpet, yeah. In fact,
who was that recorded the trumpet?
Yeah, who did the trumpet on that?
That was
better bust out that year 2 CD and look at the liner notes.
Yeah, it was a guy that played with Phoenix on the Fault Line.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? They called him the Prospect.
That's right.
Cool.
I can't remember his real name.
I always hear the horns when I'm playing keys live. I always hear those horns, and I don't have enough skills and hands and keyboards to do the trumpet on the keyboard at the same time as the piano. But I always hear it, and in fact, most of the time I'm singing it out loud, not into the microphone necessarily, but I was singing the trumpet parts out loud because they're ingrained in my head.
True.
I'm actually the opposite of that. Whenever I hear the album version, the trumpet surprises me because I forget that it's there. I'm so used to playing it live that when I hear it, it almost sounds wrong, like somebody's playing along with the CD or something.
It sounds quite a bit different live, for sure. I had fun with the lead guitar on this one. It was basically a takeoff of Obla Di Obla Da at the beginning.
Yeah,
that's right. I think I remember you saying that in another interview that we did. Yeah, I mean,
and then there's a little counter melody thing during the chorus part that I always was concerned I wouldn't be able to sing and play at the same time, but except for when on the rare occasion I've forgotten it. It's been fine.
Yeah, this is definitely a fun one because of all the breaks and everything, and then plus now live, it's become kind of like a staple of crowd participation between the hand claps and then me when you guys are all switching instruments around, making everybody yell out "Con" at the beginning, kind of gets people into it.
Where did the hand claps come from?
I don't remember, honestly.
Are they on the album?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Are they on the album track? I can't remember.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that happened in the practice room, and somebody just did it. No, you're on keys on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I usually do it live.
I think it was.
Andy, aren't you doing something too, or is it with sticks? Are you doing something?
Sticks? Yeah, I'll either if I'm feeling squirrely, I'll actually move my sticks in my hands and actually clap. But most of the time, I'll just do little shots on the rim of my snare.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to clap into the microphone so somebody can hear it, and then get my hands back down to one of the few songs where I'm using both hands on the keyboard. That doesn't happen very often, but that's one of the songs where it's I have to get them back down in place, and it's really, really hard. I'd say I'm about 70% for coming back down and hitting the right spot after those claps. But I love doing those claps.
Mm-hmm. It definitely adds to it. But plus, like I said, it is always nice, looking out and seeing people in the crowd doing the claps along with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there has been evolution of the shouting "Con." We always shout "Con." And then, at some point, one of us, was it enough?
Yeah, it was the enough.
He had enough.
I always look to see if, I'm always worried I'm going to be the only one doing it. And I'm always relieved. And then oh no, everybody else did it. Okay, good. I don't look like a complete moron.
You're not alone.
For that.
The best part is, when eventually the audience was also saying enough with us.
Right.
Yeah. They've seen it and heard it so many times that they actually also do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when that first started, I found it really irritating because I wasn't expecting it, and I was just like, "Oh man," because it threw me off.
Guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I know. In the beginning, it threw me off, and now that I expect it to happen, it still makes me laugh now. But if it doesn't happen, I think something might be wrong. Like, uh-oh,
Who died?
Somebody fell down.
I felt that way about the claps.
Oh yeah.
I was playing the little lead line in there, and suddenly there's clapping. I was like, "What's going on?"
So I have the guy that did the trumpet.
About time.
Prospect.
Yeah, his name is
The
Chris the Prospect Taylor.
Okay.
Chris Taylor.
Yeah, and he also did the trumpet on the Squire Agothos as well.
Yeah. We had him.
Hey, while we have you here,
Probably should have edited that into the earlier podcast.
right?
He came in to do a couple songs because we knew what we wanted, and he was. He knocked it out in one session. We just, he didn't have to come back. Yeah. So he did a really good job. We were real happy with it. And it was, we said, okay, this is what, we're going, it sounds like this, la, 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 and he's like, okay. And he did it perfectly. And he was a professional.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That band that he was in, Phoenix on the Fault Line, they were always just a very tight band.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I have a memory of recording that I can let's talk about. But it's really just as most things involves Mike and I.
Your private moments.
Yeah, our private moments. We were there like recording. I think Mike was there, and I was recording the keys, and Mike was there, and I don't know. It wasn't quite like whatever I was laying down. Like I don't know if I just wasn't hadn't fleshed it out far enough yet, or just because it was album, I wanted to make it a little fuller, thicker, fancier. So I was layering a bunch of different takes because I was, a very, very limited, piano player. So I kept adding more stuff on to make it sound like I knew how to play piano better. And most of it is completely buried in the mix and nobody here. And we might have even just turned some of the tracks off and wound up going simpler. I can't remember.
Probably.
But I remember at one point we were soloing all the piano parts, so we didn't hear anything else except I think the piano parts and maybe the drums.
I think it was a piano, bass, and drums.
Piano, bass, and drums, and it sounded exactly like an 80s sitcom, like a theme song. It was like an 80s sitcom theme song, and we were like, this is fantastic. we're going to use this for something. It's going to, we were just so pleased.
And if you, when you add the vocals onto it, it sounds like it's like telling the story of this cheesy sitcom starring Khan.
So what I'm hearing is that we'll soon be releasing the sitcom version of the song.
We'll have to dig up those old mixes. Do we still have them somewhere?
No, they're in your desk at
they're
school.
in your drawer, Noah.
Yeah,
That's right.
Maybe we'll put that on Patreon.
If you can find it, then we'll do it.
If I can find it,
we'll make a mix of it. This is one of the songs where I decided to get really creative with the bass line and come up with something that is really hard to play. And
your lead guitar bass line.
Yes, the lead guitar bass line.
Yeah.
And I recorded it for the album that way. And it's very a lot of moving around and complicated stuff. And I definitely had to dumb it down to play live because it just wears me out, and I just get, I just can't keep up with the song. So when you listen to the bass on the album, it's definitely much more impressive than what I'm giving to you live.
That goes for every one of my.
Well, every one of Noah's bass lines, because he's not the one playing them on the album.
I was gonna say.
except for year 1 and year 2 where I took it really seriously.
Yeah, you were a little more serious back then.
I really tried to come up with really great bass lines.
Well, that's because they're all at your house.
Yeah,
You just had the recording equipment there, so you could just do it at your leisure.
and
Now you got to go all the way to Mike's house.
I don't think I had a kid at the time, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and
those were the days.
Different time.
Bass lines of full convenience.
Yeah, right.
That'll be my solo album of just bass, and that's what it'll be called. Bass lines of what'd you call it? Bass lines of convenience.
Pure convenience.
Pure convenience.
I also remember that during the verses on this, I think separately, Patrick and I both came up with similar parts that we play. On
the bass and the guitar.
Yeah, and we had no idea that each other were going to do that. And when we got together and we're running through it, like one of the first times we were both doing that, we were like, hey, wait a minute. But luckily the parts, they're not exactly the same, but they complement each other, which I thought was really cool. It was a nice unplanned bonus to the song.
I feel like we do that often. I'll be on keys and I'll pick out a melody and I'll be playing it and I'll listen. I'm like, that sounds just like what Patrick's doing.
That's because you copy me all the time. I come in to record a guitar part and I found out you did a backing vocal with the exact same part right before I got there.
Well, my goal is to always emulate your guitar parts in my voice.
Thanks.
That's happened to me too, Patrick. Like I play a key part and then it's like winds up being very similar to your lead guitar part.
Yeah.
We just must have similar minds on what a lead sort of was, some kind of lead melody sounds like.
Right, and similar influences, and you have to fit it in a certain sort of frequency range in the song, and
yeah.
certain
things just lend themselves better to that. So
well, and it's not just it's not just you, Patrick. I find every once in a while I'll just find myself putting something together that when we get all together and we're playing it, I'm just like, what if one of us has done the same thing as the other? And I don't know if it's spontaneous or if, maybe we heard it and it just stuck. I don't know, but
osmosis.
Yeah, I guess so.
Might be a little subconscious at work there.
Yeah.
Well, I also think with like playing with each other for so long, you tend to kind of pick up on the same cues in songs a lot of times, and we'll just kind of work off of that. So, I've definitely noticed it. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to pretend like I know which chords are which just because of by listening to it or anything. But I definitely notice you guys will wind up doing like a lot of progressions and things like that, just playing off of each other though. And this song is definitely rings true for that.
Well, Mike, you said that you discovered you were kind of playing the same thing, but they went together, they blended well.
Yep.
And whenever I discover that I've done that, I try to keep it and see if I can, if it does blend or if I can adjust it. So, I have had moments where I've had to completely redo parts because they're just too close and it doesn't sound good. But I kind of like it when you have two different people in the band and they come up with the same thing, but they're different in such a way that they do blend together real nicely. I think that, I don't know if that's speaks to how we've been playing, how we played together for so long, or if it's just coincidence. But it's cool when it happens. I always enjoy playing this song. I think when we play it at a stretch across several shows for months on end, it gets a little monotonous for me because it's a pretty mid song and unlike something like something else that like just rocks and keeps moving. This one isn't like that. But every time we play it, I always enjoy when we do the con shout outs or something like that, where the audience who's there gets into it and shouts out to. I think that's probably my favorite part of doing this song.
Most definitely. I mean, it's especially in like the bigger crowds, like when we played this one in Vegas, and just like the standalone song itself. I mean, that was phenomenal to hear, like thousands of people just yelling "Con."
Yeah.
Hey, do you miss getting new content from 5 Year Mission? You should head over to patreon.com/5yearmission and check out our Patreon page. As a patron of the band, you will receive access to rare and behind-the-scenes pictures and videos and other cool stuff. You will also have early access to many things, like video releases or new songs. You can sign up for different levels, from ensign all the way up to admiral. One of the perks of being an admiral on 5 Year Mission's Patreon is that you get to be a producer on this podcast. Currently, our producers are Neil Carpenter, Helen Lake, Debbie Rinke, Carol Jones, Becky and Roxy, Steve and Frankie Palopoli, Madison Rachel Jones, and Jim Morehouse. Your name could be on this list if you sign up as an admiral. So head over to patreon.com/5yearmission now. That's the number 5 Year Mission.
You know them, you love them. They're fansets.com. Fansets, your home for everything pop culture pin related. From March 1st, the new releases are Star Trek Picard with a Broken Pieces episodic pin with 7 of 9 front and center. Also, they are continuing the Women of Trek series with Kira Nerys from DS9 and Deanna Troi. But let's take a minute from what I just saw on Twitter for the first time. Fan danglers. Yeah, it's a fun word to say, but it's also an even more fun product. You can actually take your Fansets pins and actually put this little fan dangler on them and put them on like a zipper, your keychain, or whatever you want to do. I'm actually personally going to order probably about 3 or 4 fan danglers here myself, mainly because I also just want to say the word fan danglers as many times as possible in this ad. So head on over there, fill up your cart with some fan danglers, as well as some new stuff from fansets.com, and also use the discount code 5YearMission. That is the number 5, and then all caps Year Mission, 5 Year Mission. You'll get 10% off of your entire order. Fansets, our pins have character, and also fan danglers, and we thank them for sponsoring our episodes every single time we get them on here on the Trick Geeks Network of podcasts.
All aboard the Botany Bay, 85 people floating through space. Checking the computer reveals that they're Superman. First there's Khan, he almost died. He may have fooled LT MacGyver's, but he's not a nice guy. Kirk and Spock and Bones try to research where these people have been. It turns out that they are relics from the eugenics wars. Superior in every way. 200 plus years on a sleeper ship, and now their Napoleonic leader is awake. They dressed up to welcome their guests, had a big dinner to disguise an inquest. Spock asked all the questions while Kirk sat back and listened in. He'd had enough, Khan proceeded his plan, tried to take over the ship, every woman and man, threatened for their loyalty or else he'd do the captain in. But Kirk proved more formidable than Khan thought he'd be.
strength you're no match for me. But after an epic battle, Kirk ended the feud with continuity insane. Continuity insane. Continuity insane. You take over. Khan was marooned on SETI Alpha 5. It would be a challenge to keep he and his people alive. But when asked to serve in heaven, he said he'd rather rule in hell. It would be interesting, Captain, to return to that world in 100 years and learn what crop had sprung from that seed that you planted today. With continuity insane. 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 The takeover, it's not over.
That's pretty good for Space Seed.
Yeah, definitely.
Does anybody else have any memories? Final thoughts, memories about the song?
Pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah. Good job, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's like 100 more memories or things about it that we could come up with if we were given time. But
Yeah, and if anybody does end up having questions about this song in particular, I mean, feel free to write in, send us a message on any of our social media, email, whatever, and we'll do our best to make up some crap for you.
Hey, and watch for that alternate Chekov version as well as the sitcom version coming to a theater near you.
I think we should
No,
write
it is
all new lyrics, Chris, and have you sing all new lyrics to the sitcom version.
All right. Well,
There we
you
go.
give me that sitcom version, and I'll come up with something.
So is this how you guys got started doing Charles in Charge all the time?
I don't know what that is all
No,
about.
it was just Providence. Our heads were already just in that zone. That
Gotcha.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this newest episode of What Our Little Songs Made Of. Well, we will see you guys with another installment of this here pretty soon. Bye, everybody. Oh, see,
You see what I did there?
that was clever.
That's how we end the song. We may as well end the episode the same way.
Unfortunately, with Zoom, there's such a lag that all of us wouldn't be able to shout it together.
Oh, but let's do it. You ready? One, 2, 3. Come on! Perfect.
No.
I sure want to live. I sure want to live.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. If any of you are interested in listening to more of our music, you can check us out on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or pretty much anywhere that you can listen to music. Just search for 5-Year Mission and we should be the first thing that comes up. If you would like to contact us in regards to the podcast or anything else that you want to talk to us about, you can email us at 5yearmissionband@gmail.com.
And for more information about the band, you can go to 5yearmission.net and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
5-Year Mission, the podcast, is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.